Uncle says, Steven, I think I became creatively bankrupt. Uh-oh. For the past 2 months, I can't take joy of anything that isn't an art study. How to get out of this? Take a break if you can, you know. If art's your job, that's hard, but try to put the job part in a little box and close it off from the rest of you. If you can just hands off completely, just like take a couple weeks of like not drawing at all, completely reset. And the solution here is always to get back to your interests. For a lot of people who bottom out and go creatively bankrupt, the practice is miserable, they're not enjoying it anymore, they don't even know how they would get back there, they're sitting there drawing, wanting to leap out of their skin, right? The almost universal experience to fixing that in a robust way, right? Sometimes you just cycle out of it, but we're not talking about cycling out of it, right? We're talking about a real robust change to the practice, is you reincorporate something into the practice that you always thought didn't belong in it. That's asking you to look in a blind spot. That's asking you to explore yourself, but that's what art is about, right? And in my experience as a teacher, when I see a student have a really big breakthrough, all the time it's that. And I've helped like really well-established professionals with way more experience than me. I've just floated that to them in conversations, you know, conversations that were structured. You know, they were asking me to help them with something, right? With this problem. And I just floated that to them and they were like, I get it. And they right away, it was fixed. Like they knew right away. It could take more time, but if the fruit is ripe, it can fall from the tree any moment. But that's truly it. To give you some examples which make it sound too direct, right? For the eureka to really work, it obviously needs to be an explosive product of exploration and realization and stuff like that. But to have examples, for me, it was the spirituality. For most of my art career, my development, and my childhood and stuff like that, I had a great interest in spirituality, but I thought that was like an interest of the part of me that wasn't the artist, right? And I very pointedly kept that out of the work. I was like, that's not what art is about for me. And I couldn't have even formalized it in a statement like that. Like, you know, that doesn't belong in the art, because it was so axiomatically assumed that didn't belong in the art that I never even asked it. It would never come up. It would never float in, right? And my big explosive eureka that transformed my practice and transformed my feelings towards my art and how I did it and things like that, made things so much better, was just realizing that, oh, why would that be? Why would it not have that too, right? I'll give you examples from students, just a couple off the top of my head. I had a student who was crashing out. They were like, I just don't know what to make. I don't care about my art. So we were on the cycle of how do we make you care more about your art? And they just brought up at random, like, yeah, you know, I have a zoology degree. They brought up like, yeah, when I was getting my zoology degree, I couldn't draw much. And I was like, oh, you have a zoology? You like really like animals? You really like animals? They're like, yeah, I love animals. So, you know, I went to school for it. And I was like, why don't you draw animals? And they were like, right. Another example was similarly, you know, I had a friend who's an amazing artist, professional, super long career, really, really high level, super intelligent person. And we were talking about this, and they, you know, their interest in art was oil painting, doing still life. They were especially a big fan of still lifes and things like that. And we were talking, and she was telling me that she has an anthropology, that her background is in anthropology. We were talking about our life stories. I always I get people's life story a bit to try to find something. And we were talking about what her interest in anthropology and studying it sort of did to her, and revelations that brought her in when she was a young person and things like that. And I was like, why don't you incorporate that? Like you do all these still lifes, you probably know everything about them. You're picking them like antiques, right? Every single object. Like you probably have in your head a whole deep research well and anthropological viewpoint on all of these things, don't you? And she was like, of course. And I was like, yeah, most people don't have that, including other still life artists. Why don't you incorporate that? And boom, out. So it's usually stuff like that, right? There's something in a person's blind spot, a deep well of interest. It's usually something that's already there in their life, but because of a trauma, a door that they had to close in their past, it's somewhere behind them where they're like, that was in another life, a different version of me, and unconsciously, axiomatically, they've shut it out of the art. And usually that's what you need to grab and drag back in to the art. That's what will do it. And again, if hearing that the answer is not obvious to you, that's probably a good sign. That means that there's grounds for exploration there, journaling, seeking, searching, so that's a good, because then when you bump into it, it will charge it with explosive eureka energy. And that explosive eureka energy is what gives it the ability to ingrain into your life and make a profound change that lasts actually years instead of a few weeks, like most lower level art eurekas.